Hello, in this recording we're going to demonstrate how to use performance ratings, as in performance ratings from the summary section of performance forms in compensation eligibility rules and success factors. So there's no way in standard to use performance ratings in success factors compensation module, so we have to go through this workaround that I'm going to show of sending the ratings from the performance forms to a standard portlet in the talent section of the people profile called overall performance. And then from there, we're going to use an integration center job to send these performance ratings to an MDF object, which we can then use in our compensation eligibility rules. So let's get started. The first step is to create the MDF object, which will eventually be used to drive eligibility. And so we're going to call this object performance ratings and make it effective dated basic. Yes. API visibility, this is really important, should be editable. Then we can call this one performance ratings. And then here we have, we don't really need the external name, so we can delete this one. One thing that's very important is to change this, the external code data type to be user, so that it can be used by the compensation module. And then all we have to do is add a new field here at the bottom called ratings label, and then save this MDF design. And then after we save, we'll have to grant permissions to the super administrator of this environment to be able to see the fields and see the data. So we're going to type permission role. Go to manage permission roles and select super user. And here in permission, we're going to go down to miscellaneous and search for rating. And here we have the MDF we just created. Save. And so before we go into the next step, let's take a look at the performance ratings in this overall performance background element, standard background element that I was mentioning in the beginning. So to do so in this environment, we can go to Claire Pendery's profile. She has in her talent section 2 ratings that were sent from 2 performance forms over different years. So if we click on talent on her profile and we scroll down, we can see here this performance rating portlet, and we can see that the rating in 2021 was exceeds expectation, and in 2022 it was substantially exceeds expectation. And when we look at the data, we can see it came from the performance module right away. So this happens once this portlet is enabled in the people profile, and it doesn't have to be visible to end users. It can just be added there and made visible to the system administrator so that the eligibility can be tested for the composition module. But we can see, yeah, that these ratings came automatically, and we cannot delete them. That's what makes the difference between additions to this portlet that would be made manually here, and here we can see they're grayed out because they came from the performance module. So the next step for us is to go to Integration Center and build a job that is going to take the data from this portlet to send it to the MDF object. One thing we need to do before we, actually I have it here, is the ID of Claire, because we're going to need that to test the data flow. So the next step now is to go to Integration Center and build this Integration Center job. So here we want to click on My Integrations, Create in the top right, More Integrations Type, Success Factors, 2 Success Factors, Scheduled, and then Create. Here we're going to search for Overall, and this will list all the trend data portlets, and the one we want is this one, System Overall Performance. And we can just select it here. Then we can enable server-side pagination. Click Next. Here we have it in the input fields, and we need to click here to select the output fields. Automatically the same shows here, so we need to delete this first by clicking on here, delete, and then add, and search for our performance rating MDF that we created. Click Add. And then we're going to take the information from the left side, so starting with the effective date, which is here. So we're going to drag the start date from here to become the effective date for our entries in the MDF object. Then the user ID is going to be our external code. And finally, if we scroll back up, the ratings label here is going to come on here, on the ratings label in the MDF. Then we can go to Next, Next again. Can do once, and it can be scheduled to run yearly, monthly, weekly, multiple executions per day, but we just want to do it once for now. Next, and run now. So the job is running. It usually takes less than a minute to run. In our case, it takes even less, a few seconds, because there aren't so many users in this environment. And to check that the MDF was correctly populated with the data, we need to go to Manage Data, and that's where we're going to need Claire Vendor's ID here, user ID, to search for the data. So here we can search for performance ratings, and then here Claire, and then we can see here the 2 ratings. 2021 exceeds expectation, and then 2022 substantially exceeds expectation. And we can see the timing, May 27th, so this is today at 11 a.m. EDT, which is correct. It's 3 hours more than my time zone here. It's the same, exact same timestamp. So we have everything we need now to drive eligibility and compensation. So the next step for us is to go to compensation, Comp Home, and select a template here. So I'm going to take the model company salary planning template, click Plan Setup, Plan Details, Eligibility. And here I can just add inside my already existing full salary exclusion, I can add this condition on the performance rating. So I'm going to do a parent end, and then here go and select from employment details, performance ratings, custom performance ratings, and ratings label is equal to, and then we can put the name of the rating. So for example, exceeds expectations. So it has to match exactly the values that got populated in the MDF object for it to work. We can leave this empty, and then once we save the rule and apply it, it will correctly exclude the right people. One thing to keep in mind is that the compensation eligibility rules work as of the template effective date. So if we don't define a date here and there are several entries in the MDF, what is going to happen is that the system will look at the MDF as of the effective date of the template, our template here, which is EC integrated. So it will look at the value in the MDF object for Claire as of April 1st, 2018 here. because that's the date that's here. So if you wanted if we wanted it to take the 2022 performance rating, we'd have to make sure that we have all the data flowing into our comp worksheet and change this to be April 1st, 2022, which is what any competition system administrator does right away when creating a copy of an existing plan to prepare it for the next cycle. So that concludes the demonstration. I hope this was useful, and thank you for listening. Bye-bye.